What is up, sports fans? Coach Nick here. Welcome to B-Ball Breakdown and the live post-game show, Game 2, Lakers and Nuggets. I gotta tell you, I'm cheering for the Nuggets. I don't know why. It's it's an underdog thing. It's a great story. You want to see them. First of all, I don't want to see a sweep, right? So we want to see a long series. But man, it was a great game. Really was a great game. And it had the makings of being a bad game where I was going to turn it off after the third quarter because it was a blowout. But that wasn't the third quarter. Sometime in the beginning of the third quarter, it felt that way. But then certainly the Nuggets again and again show you how tough they are and how it's hard to really knock them out. Let's start backwards, shall we? Do we all see the last play of the game? Because this was going to be one of those things where LeBron was going to be the GOAT in a bad way for this loss, driving the ball, falling down, throwing it away, giving them a chance to then score and go up, and then passing it up, for the last shot where, Murray, amazing block, and then Murray, kind of saves it, but it ends up being out of bounds. There was 2 seconds left when he goes out of bounds. It probably would have been better if he could have just thrown the ball up in the air, and it would have taken 2 seconds to come back down. It would have taken a second and a half, and the game would have been over. Because remember, the Lakers did not have a timeout. Good. Hey, kudos for them. They're running a play that looked like a real play without having to have it drawn up. That was really nice. I'm sure if we go back in the annals of their out of bounds plays, we'll see that somewhere with, I guess, AD coming around a screen. But I had to watch it a few times before it came live, just to wrap my head around what was going on, because Plumlee is on Anthony Davis. Everything is fine. And remember, there's no time. So if you're going to be talking about switching and not switching these things, it's almost funny that the Lakers' lack of a timeout at the end almost hurt the Nuggets more because they just simply weren't organized to guard anything. So he calls for a switch. The guy guarding whoever was screening for Anthony Davis, doesn't hear it, isn't in the right position, I don't know what's happening there. And so it ends up having to rely on the guy guarding the inbounder to get on Rondo, which is Jokic, to get over there and try and contest. And he sort of did, but you can't give him anything. You kind of almost you just knew that ball was going in once he caught it. What was weird was that he ends up being, I think, 9 for 20 from the field. Let me check that as a final. Because 11 for 23. So he did finish pretty close to 50%. And I got to tell you, when I saw that he was 8 for 20, I was like, that's not possible. He's hitting every shot he's taking. And it turns out somebody on Twitter told me, he's like, well, he missed 4 shots in one possession in the very beginning. And that made a lot of sense. That definitely covered a lot of the misses. I couldn't understand how he did that, because he really shot well and they really had no answer for him. Here's the thing. Mike Malone should be really encouraged so they can actually get to that point where they should be able to win the game. But there's a lot of mistakes going on. I'm really troubled by the way they're defending. They can't keep going at AD with Jokic one-on-one. They cannot do it. It's, you kind of think, well, they got into position to win, but it's it made everything so much harder because they simply weren't adjusting and letting Anthony Davis just, do dribble moves, no doubling, which is really what you got to do. But, I think I saw Torrey Craig came out there and did nicely on a couple of possessions. He might have scored on one, but didn't the other. I think he might be the guy they have to go to more. Now, he played 23 minutes, which is probably close to the limit. I would say, but maybe get him 25, 26 and give him a few more minutes on Anthony Davis. Get Jokic off of him, whatever they can do. Now, I took so much crap on Twitter for, mentioning that Jokic should guard LeBron and then let Grant guard Anthony Davis, because they just simply cannot have Jokic on him. It's just not working at all. And that would have been able to work with my idea had Grant not got into foul trouble, which we could talk about the referees if you like. They were bad. They were probably bad in favor of the Lakers. The Lakers certainly had a few of theirs that they could have argued and would have been upset about too. But there were some real strange calls, I thought, out there in the beginning. And then it kind of settled down in the fourth quarter, it felt like, to some degree. But that kind of disrupted some of Grant's stuff, because Grant ended up playing 25 minutes when he would have normally played at least 35. And so, so there's some promising things here that the Nuggets, can hang their hat on and maybe, exploit for next game. But, now that they're down 2-0, it just feels like it's going to be futile. Now, the other thing is the Nuggets have to expend so much energy just to kind of get close that it's there's barely anything left for them at the end. Although again, I'm really impressed by Jokic came through. He's a clutch player, and he's proven that time and again where he's able to play. Let's see, Jokic must have played, he only played 39 minutes. I bet you Jokic played the entire fourth quarter, and he didn't seem that gassed. He was able to perform and certainly hitting those clutch shots, the post up, the three. He had an amazing pass for a cutter. Just really worth his weight in gold on that one. Where, Murray, ended up being pretty good. He had an interesting plus minus. He was plus 16. It's very strange to me that he could be plus 16 and no one else except for Millsap is like plus 9. Everyone else is negative in the starting lineup. It's a very strange game in that respect. Like, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. I'm gonna have to go through a lot of footage for the breakdown tomorrow. Well, let's go through some comments first. Let's say some shout outs. Let's get everybody involved here. See how we're doing here. All right. So, yeah, I don't think you can bring out the brooms. I think we've seen enough here from the Nuggets that they're going to get a game or two. But let's see here. Now, and then don't forget, there's always the super chats. If you want to throw some of those out there, get your question right to the top. But yeah, thank you guys for all. Oh, wow. And right on cue. Thank you. Greenway56. Amazingly. Thank you so much. Jokic is clutch in the clutch is scary. Glad AD was able to bail us out and carry down the stretch. 2-0 is a lot better than 1-1. You're darn right it is. Because you have to imagine, it could be like one of those pitchers that gets stronger as the game wears on in baseball. So, it's possible that, the Nuggets will continue to play better and better as they go farther. So they're going to take, a game or two and then make it more interesting. But, I think if you're going to compare LeBron's performance to, Jokic, it doesn't compare. LeBron was great early and then completely was not aggressive like he was for the rest of the game. But damn, if looking at Anthony Davis he is why they got him. I got to tell you, on defense as well, he was terrific. So I have been saying some stuff about him where I was a little bit concerned about his defense, and I'm not always sure why he's in the defensive player of the year discussion. But there's enough plays tonight where it indicated to me like he was really that he definitely deserves that, and just the idea that he was affecting the game so much, and certainly with Jamal Murray specifically, where you look at the team, and when he was in there without LeBron, and you kind of wonder, well, there's not a lot of defenders out there, yet they were making life really miserable in that second quarter for the Nuggets, and AD is a big reason why. And they're just tough. Dwight Howard's frustrating, but there's a long history of, it's the Goon Squad, and it's weird to see Dwight Howard doing that because he was a all-star and all those things, but he really is sort of borderline manic out there, and just sort of trying to instigate everything, and it's kind of annoying to watch as a coach. I just want him to play like a normal player, stop pushing and shoving and elbowing every little chance you get on every off ball, hoping the refs don't see it. Ultimately, it could have hurt them because there was at least one foul where they caught him, or a couple down the stretch where they're getting used to this sort of, he's just so handsy that they're gonna call those, and that's gonna be a problem. And I wondered why he was even in there deep into the fourth quarter. When the Nuggets were struggling or it was close, you could have gotten. I think I got to look at Dwight Howard where he was, but you could have gotten him where you could foul him, put him on the line, make him miss free throws. So let's see here. What else we have in the thing? So we got Nuggets in 6, maybe. I don't know if they're going to sweep the next 4 games, but I think they're going to get a couple of the next few games for sure. And Davis is not the GOAT, but for this game, man, he was great. But how about that Murray shot that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was all over him. I probably blocked it. It's so short. And then Jokic chips it in at the shot clock buzzer with touch, rolls in. For the lead, I've never, ever, I might have seen a play like that once or twice in my life, but never, at the end of the game, at the end of the shot clock, could be the most amazing play I'd ever seen, just for the situation he was in and the skill and the touch that he could do and the presence of mind to do that was amazing. So there's some amazing plays being made. I got to tell you, I think the Nuggets deserve to win the game. So for AD to bail him out like that, especially on the way they did it, and the Plumlee doesn't follow him around a screen that wasn't even really set for him. I don't get it, and I don't know if I finished my thought process on that last possession. But Plumlee shouldn't be switching that. He didn't have to. Wow. Okay, more super chats. Wow, thank you so much, Matu. Just wanted to show some appreciation for all the hard work you put in your videos. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. I'm doing well. I'm a little bit hungry right now. Actually, I haven't eaten since lunch. But you guys are going to keep me going. And then Luca Della, friend of the breakdown. Thank you so much. Wow, LeBron was throwing it in the fourth. I mean, it kind of looked like that, right? He really wasn't good. And, again, he's been so good for so long. He's gotten some crap in the past for not always taking the last shot, but he usually makes the right play. And so I don't have a problem with that. But at some point you got to think, well, you know what? He's still got to be the guy that takes that shot. He had that one where he kicked it out right at the very end. And then it led to what should have been the game-winning play for the Nuggets. I mean, man, it's just stunning. And you have to wonder how the Nuggets are going to respond to this, because this did not happen to them in the other two series, right? There was no buzzer beaters where they should have had the game and then lost it like that, I don't think, unless somebody remind me. But, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Thomas Malone, can Mason Plumlee and Jokic be on the floor together to counter AD and Dwight Howard? For sure. By the way, I liked Plumlee on LeBron. That was nice. LeBron looked a little bit tentative and kind of wasn't sure how he was going to get by him. And Plumlee is a good athlete and very quick side to side. So that was an interesting thing. And certainly if they have AD and Dwight Howard, I mean, that's the problem. If you do it that way, then Jokic has to guard AD, and it just doesn't work. Now, by the way, Jokic could guard Dwight Howard, so that works if that's what you mean. So how many minutes did Plumlee get? Because that's the interesting thing. I think he probably could squeeze a few more minutes out of him. 9 minutes for sure. I think Plumlee can get another run in there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and maybe that can mitigate some of the AD stuff, because they just got to get AD to miss a couple more, and they had that game. If you think about how close that is, so that's how a thumbnail these things turn on. Quick draw, Chev. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I believe from the Philippines, looks like. My favorite player, Rondo. Now, Rondo probably didn't have great stats in the box score. Let me mischeck. Rondo was 29 minutes, 9 points, 2 assists, a turnover, 2 steals, a block. But he did have a really good effect on the game. And he earned, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Caruso's numbers. My fault. Rondo was 3 points, but 9 assists. That's right. So he was controlling the game with his passing. He turned the ball over, though, 5 times, and that was in 21 minutes, way too many times, and that really hurt them as well. Now, Caruso deserves a game ball without question. His defense in the first half was just fantastic, all over the place, swiping the ball, coming over and helping. Just in that dunk. I mean, the dunk wasn't that great, was it? I know everyone's oohing and ahhing, but what's his face? Grant didn't even challenge that really. So you guys tell me, do you think that was that amazing of a dunk? And other than the fact that it's the typical always the white guy who dunks. Oh, it's so surprising. But we've seen Caruso do that, and we've seen Caruso dunk on people with his teeth. So that's the thing. We're gonna get to Dozier in a second, because that's a really good point people are making here. But oh my goodness, PD Gaming, thank you so much, my man. Is it just me, or is Bron really starting to tire out at the end of games? AD seems to be the person in charge of crunch time, especially in the series. Well, LeBron wasn't necessarily. LeBron was in charge, right? But he turned it over, falling down, and then he gave it up to KCP, which got that shot. It got blocked eventually. So. But, you don't give AD the ball on the top handling the ball, do you? Maybe you do. But LeBron would never be able to handle that, so you couldn't do that, right? I just think he would never give that up. But he would do something to then give it up, and then that goes to AD. But that's how you have to figure it out. LeBron needs to make that pass to AD, not anybody else. And that's, they just were lucky. They were kind of lucky. A shot like that, in my mind, is lucky. AD's, let's see what his three-point shooting is in the year, because I don't think it's that good. Let's see here. Anthony Davis. For the year, in the regular season, he was shooting 33%. Should we go on to the playoffs here just for fun? I bet you guys didn't even take any in the playoffs. A few. Let's see. Playoffs per game. He's taking a little over 2. You know what? I stand corrected. He's taking a little over 2 a game, almost 2.5, and he's shooting 38.5%, which is really good. So, all right, maybe it's not lucky, but certainly the way that went down and the way they gave him the shot was, unique, to say the least. So that's the thing. So they're always going to have LeBron James in charge, and it's a question of how he can then direct the traffic. But that was tough. All righty, let's see here. I have some other notes. Let me grab my notes out here so I can start talking about that. So let's talk about Dozier for a second. The guy hadn't played hardly at all. I guess he had a little bit of a run in that blowout in game 1. And that was interesting because he was clearly slightly intimidated, slightly overwhelmed, but really did perform nicely on the floor. Obviously, when you lose like that and he goes 1 for 5 from the free throw line in the fourth quarter, that's tough. And I was wondering why Morris didn't get those minutes. Now, what was the biggest change I think that they might have discovered, which might end up hurting the Lakers, and they should be worried about it, is by putting Dozier in, it got Jamal Murray off the ball. And that seemed to loosen some things up a little bit better because Jamal Murray needs to kind of get in space, moving around, getting off-ball screens and coming off of stuff. He was just, they were doing too many handoffs. So that's the other thing. So what we got was Dozier gets Murray off ball, and that really seemed to help him and unlock a few things. And then, they're just relying on the handoff way too much. And so, because what that does is it allows the defense to not have to move as much. The passing as much, the handoff is very short. The spacing becomes a little bit collapsed. And you're not throwing like good skip passes to then attack the closeouts. You're not spreading out enough to really create seams and attack in those areas. And so just letting the Lakers off a little bit. Now I like handoffs. Dribble handoffs are awesome, but I feel like the Nuggets are probably leading the league in handoffs, and they probably broke a record for them in this game. And it's just too many. You need to have more varied offensive attack, and that was a problem for them. And I have a feeling if they watch the footage, they're going to see that and see like, okay. By the way, the thing about Jokic, and I didn't keep track of it as much tonight as I did in Game 1, he hands it off every single time. He never fakes it and then kind of goes. Like maybe he had one in this game. Maybe someone can remind me because I feel like it was a good move. But almost all the time he just hands it off. And they're getting used to it. They're jumping in the lanes. They got a steal or two off of that. And it's just not as effective when you do it too many times. Woof. So, all right. In case you're joining us, welcome to the post-game live show. We're doing this after every conference finals game and into the finals. Sorry for last night. Holiday got in the way. But it was good to kind of have a little mini break and then come back strong. Although again, I'm starving. I could use some food, and then I don't even know what I should eat. Anybody have any suggestions? Let me know what they think I should have for dinner. And I would love it to be healthy, but it doesn't have to be. Not on a Sunday night. So Dozier needs to practice free throws, but he's actually a 75% free throw shooter. It's not like terrible. He just needs to. I mean, he got his feet wet, so he's got a little bit of that experience now. That might just be the thing that kind of settles it. But you got a guy like Morris, unless he got hurt and I missed it, who is a better shooter at the very least. And so that might be what they need. But then again, they were giving him. What was I going to say about that with Morris? I don't know, but Dozier actually did well and actually became aggressive later on going to the basket. But it just seems like they could ignore him and he wasn't going to look to create anything off of that, and that was a problem. For the most part, they made it work. So I like to see again what will happen with Dozier in Game 3. All right, let's see here. Any other interesting comments we have here? Shout out to Gigolo Puff. Thank you so much for being out here and doing this again every time. He's the man. Like taxes and death, he's going to be there. Let's see here. I'm afraid to get down to the bottom of this chat because it scrolls so fast. Let's see what we got. Oh, hey, Nikael Autar, thank you. Big friend of the breakdown, longtime friend. Great to see you out there. Is AD more important to the Lakers than LeBron? Wow. He certainly was in this game. Listen, LeBron had his run in the first quarter mostly, and that gave him that big lead. But yeah, if you're talking about down the stretch and what they needed, it was AD who gave it to him. So I don't know. I think that's probably the case. Is AD ends up being a little bit more important, especially on the defensive end too, because he's making plays that LeBron isn't making. Although LeBron had a nice block in that second half, but I would say AD made more defensive plays and certainly made more offensive plays too. So. He probably is. LeBron is sort of the linchpin, but AD becomes like the more important guy, if that makes sense. So, good question. Thanks, Nick. Let's see here. Oh, my goodness. If you want to ask me about the draftees, I haven't even paid attention. I'm sorry to who's coming out in the draft, and I don't really know much at all. So, I need to somehow catch up with this weird schedule, but I don't know. Hey, Coach, why did they have Jokic defend the inbound in the last play? That's another good question. When you inbound when you're throwing the inbound on the baseline, if you have a really big guy making it hard to throw around, that's like usually a good thing. You kind of see that on the sideline more often, or you might see if it's the baseline having to go all the way down the court. But that's what the thought process is, long, big, make it really hard to throw it in on him. They didn't have time, right? There was no timeout. So again, it almost worked in the Lakers' favor. There was no timeout because they couldn't get organized. Now, the other thing was they might have probably wanted to get a different lineup out there, but they didn't quite have time to do that because of the no timeout. It's rare. Now, that said, it didn't preclude the Nuggets from calling a timeout. They could have called one if they wanted to, but that would probably be a little overcoaching because, again, you don't want the Lakers to drop a play when they have a chance. But, man, I mean, by the way, what they ran wasn't very fancy. It wasn't anything but much besides, AD coming around that screen, which is, what every offense runs out of that baseline of the bounds. But it's the way they guarded it and the way he hit it, those are two things that Lakers fans should probably feel fortunate, obviously, because it was a breakdown. But still, he hit the shot, and you got to give him credit for making all those shots he made. It was really an impressive performance by AD all around. Let's see here. Dwight Howard or Mason Plumlee? I don't know. I mean, I would go with Mason Plumlee because Dwight's just doing all the antics, and it's just I'm not into it, even though it might be worthy of doing. Oh my goodness, Adarsh Mital, thank you. Why did LeBron's scoring drop off in the second half? Well, he just was not nearly as aggressive. Like, if you want to compare how he got those scores in the first half, he was looking to score and he was going at the basket hard in transition, where that's when it gets scary for people when they have to have 2 or 3 guys get in front of him. He just wasn't doing that. He was disjointed, disconnected from the offense. Now, AD was going, so he wanted to feed him as well. It'll be interesting to go back to that footage and really look at like what was really going on like in that third quarter, because part of the thing was in that third quarter the Lakers still had a lead. Let me actually break down the quarter scoring, so I want to make sure I have it right. So the Lakers were up 8, and then they're up by 10 at halftime, right? But then Denver outscored them by 6 to cut it to 4 at the end of the third. And yeah, the Lakers only had 22 points in the third quarter and then 23 in the fourth. And that's a big deal. LeBron just sort of looked disconnected. It's interesting. Now, we do need to check on who had guarding him. I believe in the second half, Plumlee was doing it, and he was doing a very nice job, and that was part of it. And then you could see at some point down the stretch where LeBron was picking and choosing who he wanted to go at, and it looked like Murray was the guy they wanted to go at, like force a switch and get Murray onto him. And that was a little interesting because I think Dozier was out there, but they must have recognized that Dozier has a little bit more maybe ability than Murray, or maybe a little bit light, a little bit bigger. So they probably were kind of doing it by size and whatever. Maybe they hope they can get Murray into foul trouble. But it didn't really work out that well for LeBron as far as the scoring aspect. So they're going to have to look at that and figure out who they want to really attack in those moments, because it's a little bit, it's a little strange. The whole thing with LeBron is strange sometimes. And that happens. He gets disconnected and unaggressive. It's interesting in a way. Let's see here. Let's see. Do you think the 2-day break will help the Nuggets win Game 3? Yeah, there's no question they're looking a little bit tired, but it's not necessarily fatigue overall, all these games, which it could be part of it, but I just think it's the mental anguish of they get down by so much, so early, that it's just like they have to give every ounce of energy just to like cut it to 6, and then they kind of get a little bit closer and then they're just exhausted. Now, they rebounded nicely and they didn't appear to be exhausted like that in the end, which is great. But like there are these moments where it just feels like it's too much, both mentally and physically, and they need to figure out a way to avoid going down by so much so early to have to come back. Do I think that Bol needs to play? I mean, based on what we saw today and how they kept it together, like no. But I don't know. You might want to give him a chance. If AD goes on a roll again like that and they're going down by 10, 12 points, like I've been saying, that if it's the third quarter, you got to try it. You got to put him in and see what happens. Let's see here. Oh my God, Noah Satterley, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. If there's a question, you throw it in there. I'll try and get to it here if I see it. Let's see here. And then anybody have a nice orange question for me? Those seem to. Oh, there. Jeremiah gets me. Who needs to step up for the Lakers? Well, LeBron, in the clutch needs to step up for the Lakers. He's certainly the guy that I would think right away. I mean, Caruso played a terrific game. Who else could have stepped up that would have been a thing? Now, Danny Green, I thought was kind of he salvaged the game, but he was pretty bad, I thought, for the first half or first 26, 27 minutes. But he salvaged the game. But if you're going to look at it, it's LeBron is really the only guy they're going to squeeze any more out of. Really, I thought Rondo was also very good. It was not necessarily scoring, but with the assists, so he was doing terrific there. So yeah, it had to be LeBron as a guy I'm going to point to. Let's see here. Alrighty, any other of these? I like the orange ones. They grab my attention better. Let's see here. Coach, you think the Nuggets? Think the change the Nuggets made is the go-to move going forward? Yeah, well, you're going to see Dozier in there probably earlier. Get Murray off the ball. They should try that some more for sure. And I think I have a feeling Plumlee definitely guarded LeBron in the first game too. In my mind's eye, I can picture that. So I'm sure they're going to figure that out too. That seemed to work well. And then they had to kind of keep Grant out of foul trouble. Now Grant's the guy on the Nuggets that needs to play better. Listen, he was 3 for 4, but he got into foul trouble. That's the one thing also that the Nuggets need to somehow avoid fouling. Let me see what the total foul numbers are, because the Nuggets fouled 22 times and the Lakers fouled 30 times. Is that right? I mean, Dwight Howard, he got the 5. Anthony Davis had 4. Caldwell Pope had 4. But it kept feeling like they were getting called for fouls that were like torpedoing their runs. And part of it was the refs. Listen, we mentioned it earlier. The refs called some really strange calls against the Nuggets, and I don't know what to make of it. Kennedy is usually a really good ref, impartial, but it's hard to imagine. But then I got to know where they call a technical foul on the Lakers bench on Phil Handy, and that was interesting. That can never happen. The assistant coach can never get a technical foul. Listen, if the Nuggets won by 1, and and Handy gets that technical foul, and they get the bucket, the free throw for that, it's like that's contributing really to a loss. So the Lakers escaped. They should feel pretty fortunate. Who is more to blame, PJ Dozier or Plumlee? Yikes. It's a good question because, it's not always about the result. Okay, Plumlee screwed it up and gave up the open shot or enough of an open shot to win the game. But Dozier misses those 5 free throws, and that kills you because he had multiple chances to kind of get that right. But PJ Dozier did play so well. The other thing, he had a great drive where he got in on the body of Anthony Davis and got the and-1, missed the free throw, but got to hit the bucket. So I don't know. I might have to go Plumlee. I think I like Dozier, what he did overall. Justin Jassa, thank you so much. What do you think about MPJ and Kuz dynamic? What am I missing? Is anything I missed between them? Like they didn't get into they didn't get into a fight or anything, right? Michael Porter Jr. though, 15 points and with a huge 3 that was thought about it for a minute and then shot it and nailed it. Wow. Meanwhile, Kuzma, 8 points. I mean, certainly you'd argue that, Porter Jr., won that matchup pretty easily tonight. And, listen, I think that Michael Porter Jr. is probably a better offensive player than Kuzma, I would think. So that's an interesting dynamic. And, you can look at that, but I'm not sure that that's the matchup that's going to decide these games. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Do you think that Plumlee sold it? Fan from Philippines. I don't think he sold it. You mean like he was betting on the game against the Nuggets? No. I just think he thought there was going to be a switch. It just seemed silly. Like it was in front of him. He could see the guy was not in position. I don't think. Let's see here. Are Nuggets waiting to be 3-1 and then pull their charm? I certainly hope not, John, because if they do, they're not going to make it. They cannot do it against this team. They can prove me wrong, but I just cannot see it against this Lakers team with LeBron, them doing that. No way. Let's see here. How do you think playing PJ over MPJ? Is that who he's playing over? I got to think. I thought maybe he was on the court with Michael Porter Jr. for a little while too. To me, it was Morris's minutes that he took. Morris played 13 minutes, and I guarantee you he's got to be playing. Morris must be averaging 18, at least 5 more minutes a game in the playoffs. So those are the minutes I think he took most of, and that was interesting because Morris is, he's a good shooter. But he doesn't facilitate the same way, and they probably wouldn't run Murray off ball with Morris bringing the ball up. So that's the difference. So he's got a little interesting dilemma here because Morris ended up being, 3 for 4, made his free throws. That's an interesting trade-off. You're getting a lot better defense and some facilitating versus some shooting, and that's a question that Malone's going to have to figure out. Let's see here. It's a word one. Excuse me. Wow. Coach, what do you think the Nuggets need to do to get better looks on three? It feels like they had a hard time getting open looks for their shots. Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, right now I can think of one like, that Murray had a three when they doubled the post, one pass away, silly stuff. And I feel like Gary Harris had good open looks. What did he shoot from the line, from the 3-point line? Harris was 1 for he only got 3 shots. Okay, well the 2 he missed, as far as I could tell, were in my memory. At least one they were open. He needs to make those. But I think that part of the problem, like I mentioned before, is it's too much handoffs, and so everything is getting bunched up, and they're getting their hands in those things. They're not getting enough separation and spacing to attack and then kick, and that would help. That should help some threes. Let's see, who are the MVPs in the playoffs so far? Well, Jokic has to be the top of that list, I would say, and then on the other side, it's hard for the Miami Heat to choose somebody, but let's see, and then Celtics too. Is anybody really just going nuts? No. So I would say it's either Anthony Davis or Jokic. So let's see here. Would Jordan have taken that last shot? Yes, he would have. They would have spread it. He would have worked his way around the perimeter and found something open for sure. Let's see here. Hey, Coach, what do you think is Porter's ceiling? I think he's like KD. Porter's going to be like KD. Do you think he can be a top 5? Yeah, I mean, if he can be like KD, he can be a top 5 player MVP. So I don't think that they don't need to move him. I think they should keep him and develop him and let him be that guy. So I think he'll be a KD player pretty soon. Now, will he learn to play defense? Maybe, and certainly KD wasn't the defender he became later on either. He was not, he struggled big time in the beginning. Let's see here. Has Dwight and Rondo secured their spot in the Hall of Fame? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Dwight, I kind of feel like probably, maybe, yeah. And then Rondo, it's iffy. I think Rondo's a real iffy thing. I don't really know what they use to decide Hall of Fame. Really, it's confusing to me. And I think Rondo would, whatever it is, it would be a little bit on the bubble. But Dwight probably is more of a lock to make the Hall of Fame, I would think. Let's see. Do the Lakers need a guard that can create their own shot? It would certainly help. Yeah, it would help without question. Oh my goodness, Jets without regret. Thank you for another super chat. Amazing. Who should be the starting lineup for Game 3? Also, why didn't Plumlee add more pressure on LeBron? No, I think Plumlee did it right. I think he wanted to let LeBron shoot. I don't care that he made a few threes. Every shot he takes from behind the arc is a win for the defense, even if he makes it. If he makes 10 in a row and then you lose whatever, then you tip your cap and you try again next game. That's the much better solution than letting him get into the paint. And then who should be the starting lineup for Game 3? Yeah, I'm assuming you mean the Nuggets. I don't. They're not going to change the starting lineup, but they probably go to Plumlee a little bit earlier for some LeBron minutes, and they're going to have to figure out how to get. Now I noticed they saw. Well, okay, so Millsap could be the one guy because he was a real buzzkill. I got to tell you, in the first half. He was missing layup. He'd do a nice move and miss the layup. It was just so frustrating to watch as a coach. He tried to dunk it when there's no way he would ever dunk that with nobody in the gym. From where he jumped and what he was going to try and do, no way. So all those plays, like any one of those plays goes in, and they win the game, right? Or it's a tie game at the end of the regulation. So, I would say it's a really great question. I think that they're going to have to look at the Millsap issue and consider bringing him off the bench. And then at that rate, who are you going to bring in? You probably would say, yeah, let's let Michael Porter Jr. or even Craig have a shot at it because Craig had some minutes on LeBron or on Anthony Davis that looked to me like that could be viable. Because then you go Jokic on JaVale, Grant on AD, and then Craig on LeBron. That might actually be the best thing they could do. Because they just don't seem to be willing to start Michael Porter Jr. and I don't think that he'd have to guard LeBron. That would be a troubling thing. So they got to bring Plumlee in a little earlier and give him another 5 or 6 minutes at least. Consider starting Craig instead of Millsap. I think that Millsap actually would be a lot better off the bench. That would probably be a really good adjustment. So great question, Marcus Powell. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Denver is clearly a good team. Why do they consistently find themselves in big holes? You could put it on the coach lineup wise. Although the thing is, a lot of times when you're looking at these runs that they do go on that are good, the lineup doesn't change. All of a sudden, they just maybe the other team's lineup changes, but it's not like a move that he's not doing as far as personnel. And so it's a good question. I don't know if there's a real definitive answer to that. Like, why do they all of a sudden just sort of figure some things out? You could then argue that it's a preparation thing. They're not prepped properly to exploit the weaknesses they need to, and they're just fishing around until they sort of figure something out, and then they can hammer that for a little while. So that's an interesting take. It's weird, right? It's a weird mental thing too, but it's a problem that they're going to have to solve if they want to get past the Lakers without question. Let's see here. Let's see any good questions here. Hey, Coach, is Plumlee doing what was he doing at the end? LeBron didn't even set a screen. Plumlee was expecting a switch, okay? And, granted, we switched everything, okay? And, like, in theory, the way he was coming at that, the other guy wouldn't have slipped to the basket because you have to be careful about that, slipping to the basket and then getting a layup for the game. But he didn't have to. There was no screen. He could have just followed the guy. He wasn't screened off, The screener wasn't even really moving to get in his way. So at that point, it's just like keep it simple. You know what KISS stands for? Keep it simple, stupid. Just stay on the guy. Don't give him that at all. Very, very frustrating, very troubling. Let's see here. Do you think it was a bad move in the second half that they just constantly went to AD, thus stagnating the offense and making the rest cold? That's interesting. There was a certain, but he was doing so well, it's like hard to kind of complain. But you're right. At some point, AD ran out of bullets, right? I believe he missed a couple, maybe 2 out of 3 of his last 3 shots. And that was big. So there might be something to that, actually, and that also could have been another big reason why LeBron wasn't like scoring or being aggressive as well. So really good question, Red. Oh my goodness. James Faustino, thank you so much. You got to give credit to Phil Handy. He improved a lot of AD's moves. AD's balance on his shots is much better than before. Great shot at the buzzer. Okay. All right, we'll give Phil a little shout out there, I guess. I've seen some of the videos, and I usually raise an eyebrow. But okay, something's worked. Listen, the only thing is AD has always been this good, right? He's always made jump shots like that. Phil might actually have improved like the handles. He had a couple moves off the dribble that were really impressive that are a little bit newer to me than not. So, yeah. Let's see. Should the Nuggets trade Millsap? Yes. You think Rondo should be looking to be more aggressive and shoot more? No. I think he's fine. He hit a 3. They were like, whoa, that was, he's open. So I think he's doing fine. I think his shot selection is perfect. Do you think Malone doesn't trust MPJ? It's hard to think that he doesn't trust him after all this time because he's proven that he deserves a good the shot, but I don't think he trusts him enough to start him and go against LeBron, and that's probably fair enough. Let's see here. Oh, Frank Herrera. Yeah, let's pivot this to the other series a little bit, shall we? Frank, thank you so much, man. Hey, Coach, what are your thoughts on Game 3 between the Heat and Celtics? What else can the Heat do better offensively to win the series? So I did a breakdown, and, feel free to go watch it. It was weird. Not as many people watched it today for some reason. But the Celtics did a lot better against the zone. Let me see here. Hang on. Right. So, and Brown and Tatum were a lot better, so that was important for that. But what can they, and they attacked the zone better. Like, actually, they followed a lot of the things I outlined in Game 2 for what they could do to get better shots against that zone. What can the Heat do better offensively to win the series? Yeah, Dragic really, seemed to struggle. Now, I showed you, Smart guarded him, and I looked at all those possessions, and, a couple of times he denied and kind of maybe, made him work a little harder, and that could wear him out. But Jokic also, Dragic, should I say Jokic? Dragic hit his head and bloodied his lip, and it was a concussion, who knows? But he was just out of it, and then they cut his minutes because of it. So they need him just to get back to what he was like: 20, 25 points, really aggressive, hitting those runners. That would probably help a big time. Now, Jimmy Butler was kind of MIA too for a lot of that game, and that happens. He looks like he should be the guy, the Michael Jordan kind of role, but then he disappears a lot of the time. And it's frustrating because it's get that consistent, man. Varun Rispood, thank you so much. My goodness, building team around passing big man going to be the new template. Do you think we will be seeing more big men who can pass and shoot in the coming years? I would hope so. And I mean, I think that is the point. I think that more and more of these big guys will simply be trained with guard moves. So, I missed one. I'll get you in a second. So, you're going to see more 7-footers who are in that mold, have more guard skills. So that's good. But, not everybody has that gene that Jokic has to pass and find those passes and throw them and have the audacity to throw them. And they're amazing. So that's the only question is, it's a mentality as well that you need to either have. I think you can kind of develop it. I would hope, but usually this seems like it's the natural tendency of the person anyway. But so I would hope, but it's not clear to me that that's going to happen. I think we might be going smaller and smaller. So we'll see. Nisa Nadu, sorry. Hey, Coach, 2 questions. Do I expect major changes from both teams, especially defensively? Okay, so yeah, I definitely expect the Nuggets to do something. They have to go away from the AD being able to attack Jokic like that. Be it double teaming, finding someone else to guard him, and getting creative out of the box with it. I don't know. And then do you think it's time for Denver to hit the panic button? No, I mean, they had that game. They had it. They should feel pretty good about it. They just simply, mental error on Plumlee. Really, that's about all. Really too bad. I want to kind of watch that last play, how it plays out again to see if because the ball went out of bounds, you could have subbed somebody in. I think Plumlee was in the play before, but I want to check that. Or did they put him in for that? It's hard to tell, and it went so fast because of no timeout. So, yeah. So I think that's what I think you're going to see defensively, some real adjustments by the Nuggets. I don't think the Lakers will probably do too much. So we'll see how that goes. All right, man. Well, listen, we're heading into that 42-minute zone. Are we still going strong here, or what, guys? Should we keep going? Let's see here. So I think the Lakers have over a 50% chance of winning the finals at this point. The finals. Well, they certainly are. Up 2-0, they have a 90% chance of making the finals itself, and then they got to play either Miami or I would say they would have it. I mean. At least a 50% chance at that point to be, they'd be favored in the finals. So for sure, this is it. Like this is, LeBron is looking at this and realizing he's probably going to get another title. Let me go back. Where did I miss that? Let's see. Were the Celtics just better than the Heat, or could it have been Gordon Hayward creating a problem with the Heat's defense? I didn't see too much from Gordon Hayward. He didn't play a ton of minutes, and I didn't see much out of him that really shifted the game. Certainly not like the big 4 who got 20+ points. In the starting lineup. So I think that was the bigger change to that. Let's see here. Brian Holiday, oh my goodness, thank you so much. What kind of piece do you think would complete this Denver team? Well, I think part of it is MPJ just continuing to develop and taking that starting spot from Millsap will probably be the big one. I think that Murray, just taking one little minor step. I mean, he's just about there, but figuring out a little bit more of a way to just to be a little bit more consistent with that. But and then they have to keep Grant. I like Grant. I like Torrey Craig. I like Monte Morris. I mean, remember Will Barton is still in the wings somewhere, so they're good. They don't need to do too much outside of bringing anybody in. They just need to kind of get a little bit more development from MPJ, and I think they'll be ready to go. Let's see here. So thanks, Brian. Great question. Let's see here. Who matches up better against the Lakers, the Heat or the Celtics? They're both pretty small. So that's interesting. So neither of them really match up any better than the other. I would say that maybe the Celtics have some more length that they can kind of offer, perhaps defensively with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think, although you have Bam, and I think the Celtics probably might match up a little bit better, but I don't think either of them do that great. What do you think about LeBron in the 4th? Honest take. Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it. I think he kind of crapped the bed a little bit and, should take some crap from people because he didn't really come through. And AD had to bail him out. I kind of want to see where LeBron was on that final take. I know Rondo was inbounding the ball, so where was LeBron? Was he screening or, was that him? I'm kind of curious how that all went down. Let's see here. Well, let's see. Who matches up? Okay, I already got that one. Good question. I don't know. I think that we might have to sort of let everyone get back to their Sunday evenings because it's Sunday and it's family day, right? Well, listen, stay tuned for the video tomorrow. I'll be excited to get my hands on this and really get a handle on what's going on with all between the lines that we didn't miss, but we didn't cover tonight. But certainly, I think we covered a lot, and it helped me get my thoughts organized for what we'll do for tomorrow's video. But okay, so LeBron was screening and Plumlee doubled. I mean, he didn't really double. He just stopped thinking that the guy guarding LeBron was going to jump out and switch. So yeah, but. Either way, guys, this was awesome. What a nice revelation. I apologize for not doing more of these during the season, but here we are. We're going to do them as much as possible. So, is there no game tomorrow? Remind me. Let me look at the schedule. There's no game tomorrow. Okay, Monday. So we have a day off. So that'll be great. We'll be able to relax a little bit, and then I'll catch up with you the next day after the next game, which I think is game 3, right, of this series. So awesome stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Gigolo Puff, for out there moderating. Awesome, great questions from everybody. Thank you so much for the super chats. Again, I'm humbled and so appreciative to that, because that really helps. It really does help what we're trying to do here over on B-Ball Breakdown. So again, thank you guys so much for everything. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?